Good afternoon and welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve.
And I'm Scott.
And together we're Backyard Musings, Apple Valley, California.
Yep, and we're talking foreign science and technology today.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, Scott, because I was looking at the pictures on this, and you know how waves normally go in one direction, they're up and down. Well, there's another set that's 90 degrees to that, and it makes it look like a mesh almost on the water. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I've seen waves come in at different directions, like at an angle, like maybe a 30 or 45 degree angle, and hit each other. But I've never seen anything like we're talking about here, where it's like a 90 degree, like a waffle pattern or something like that.
Matrix, yeah.
Very, very weird.
On China's Qiantang River, witnesses recently observed an extraordinary matrix tide where colliding tidal bores formed a grid, and that's the best way to describe it, a grid of waves unlike anything previously explained. Now, researchers using advanced simulations have cracked the mathematics behind such two-dimensional wave patterns, opening the door to new understanding of how waves spread across fluids, plasmas, and other systems. Who would have known? A University of Buffalo study describes two-dimensional wave patterns, including undular bores that propagate in two directions. Would you like to know more?
Yeah, I wonder if you think this is maybe man-made?
I don't know. It said tidal, so...
I don't know. Last year, spectators along China's Qiantang River witnessed an unusual sight, waves arranging themselves into a grid-like formation. This striking pattern, named the matrix tide, arose from the river's famous tidal bores that rush upstream against the flow. In this case, two undular bores, shock wave-like surges that spread outward like ripples on water, traveled in different directions and collided, creating the effect. The complexity of this interaction made it impossible for mathematicians to fully describe with quantitative solutions, at least until now. Okay?
The pen's in my pocket. I must protect them. These guys trying to reduce this to mathematics, a formula. Researchers from the University of Buffalo and the University of Colorado Boulder, which are also buffaloes, have identified and described new types of two-dimensional wave patterns, waves that move in two directions, occurring not only in water, but also in systems such as plasmas and condensed matter. This might help the tokamak, how we're building that fusion reactor. This might help. Previously, the governing equations for these phenomena could only be solved in one dimension, where an undular bore travels in a single direction. The new study, published August 5th in Physical Review Letters, employed numerical simulations to achieve solutions in two dimensions, providing insight into how patterns like the matrix tide emerge.
Quote, the equations become much more difficult to solve for two-dimensional waves and are very computationally intensive. That's one of the reasons why this study hadn't been done until now, explained Gino Biondini, PhD, professor of mathematics in the UB College of Arts and Sciences. Do we know where the UB College is?
University of Boulder? University of Boulder?
Yeah, well, that's University of Colorado.
Colorado Boulder. Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, Biondini conducted the research with Alexander Bivelich, a former UB doctoral student, now serving as an assistant professor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University.
Woohoo! Arizona.
Yeah. Is that where that is?
Yep.
Okay. And Mark Hofer, PhD and professor and chair of applied mathematics at the University of Colorado Boulder. Okay.
Well, Embry-Riddle is the second largest aeronautical university behind the Air Force Academy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So if you don't make it into the Air Force Academy, you got to go here?
Well, you can. I mean, they have an ROTC program, but that whole school is focused on fixed wing and rotary instruction and anything revolving around aeronautics, like aerospace management.
So is it more for the engineer guy than it is for the military guy then?
Well, both. You can do both.
Oh, okay.
Okay, undular bores, also known as dispersive shock waves, are made up of oscillations that spread and move forward. Quote, the waves in an undular bore can be large and persist for a long time, making them a challenge to study mathematically, Hofer says. But they don't just attract mathematicians and physicists. Surfers can ride a river bore for miles.
Wow. In the 1960s, mathematician Gerald B. Whitman created a theoretical framework to describe these waves, but his equations were limited to one-dimensional cases where a bore traveled in only one direction, such as through a narrow channel. By the 1970s, Boris Kadomstev and Vladimir Petviachelvi,
Piashvili.
okay, introduced an equation that offered a foundation for describing weakly two-dimensional undular bores. However, this model remained constrained as the mathematics was too difficult to solve in anything beyond simple scenarios.
Wow, too hard for these guys. It must be
Yeah,
complex.
what's the deal, man?
Biondini and his collaborators have been working to leverage today's high-performance computing to solve these equations in two dimensions and accurately model an undular bore propagating along two different directions. Quote, this is the same process and principle that meteorologists use for weather prediction, Gandhi says. They have equations that govern the weather and input. No wonder the weatherman is usually off. They have equations that govern the weather and input measurements like temperature and pressure, but computers are needed to evolve the state numerically and get an approximate solution.
The team relied on the supercomputing power at UB's Center for Computational Research, CCR. If you ran one simulation of a wave on a laptop, it would take 22 hours.
Wow.
Using graphical processing units, or GPUs, we were able to reduce it down to about an hour per simulation, according to.
So what do? You start the simulation, then you go get some coffee and donuts, and maybe play a game of cards.
Well, yeah, or even go home for the day. 22 hours.
Some of the outcomes of the resulting simulations look very similar to the matrix time pattern observed in the Qiantang River in September of last year. The next step will be recreating the phenomena, whether in a water tank or in different physical systems, in order to experimentally validate the team's predictions. Okay. Wow, mathematics.
Yeah, this might be worth a vacation to China.
Just to see
look at this, or maybe catch it on YouTube. I don't know. I think I'd rather do that. So, but yeah, pretty fascinating.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone. Thank you. All right, man.